system.
It's time to get back to people. That's what Go1 does. We bring all your essential training content together.
Oh, bloody ads.
Leadership
Come
and
on.
technical skills into a
Always
single
bloody
solution.
ads.
And if you need training on a new topic, no problem. Go1 has that too, all within the platforms you already use. More connecting, more building, more impact.
Oh man, it's still going. Look at it. I've grown a beard since that started.
Right now, get the hard-working 1-ton deliver 7 diesel auto back with a 7-year warranty.
Oh my.
Or access the financial system, or even be recognized as a citizen, were committed by individuals who had shown no previous signs of violence. What was most disturbing was not only the number of attacks, but their motivation, hatred, frustration, extremist ideology, or simply the desire to feel superior. Most
We're back,
unsettling
guy. Yeah.
the world no longer seemed shocked. Social media filled with images of crying children, bodies on the ground, sirens, blood, screams, and minutes later, the next headline. As if tragedy had become normal, as if the death of others no longer hurt. That is exactly what Revelation 9:21 describes. Not merely an increase in murders, but a total loss of moral sensitivity, an inability to repent, an indifference toward human suffering. 2025 showed that evil no longer scandalizes, it entertains, it is shared, commented on, and made viral. At the same time, crime has gone digital. Underground platforms sell unregistered weapons, share attack tactics, and host forums where murders are celebrated and shootings are planned as if they were sporting events. In certain corners of the internet, violence is not only permitted, it is glorified. An entire generation is growing up surrounded by unfiltered violent images, extreme video games, influencers who normalize aggression, and a culture of contempt for life. Violence is no longer only physical, it is verbal, psychological, and social. People kill with weapons, but also with words, with humiliation, with constant hatred. Is this what John saw in his vision? A humanity surrounded by prophetic warnings, yet still refusing to repent? A humanity that keeps killing and no longer cares. 2025 revealed a deep darkness. 2026 could be the year that darkness stops spreading and begins to rule. Because when blood no longer hurts, judgment is far closer than we think. Prophecy number 5, the mark of the beast. Revelation 14:9 says, "If anyone worships the beast and its image, and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand." This is perhaps the most famous prophecy in the entire book of Revelation. The most debated, the most feared. A mark on the hand or on the forehead, a sign without which no one will be able to buy or sell. Centuries, many believed it was symbolic, a spiritual metaphor, a poetic image that would never have a literal application.
They were naive to think that, weren't
That
they?
year was decisive. Foundations of the system that could sustain it were built. It all began with the massive expansion of Amazon One, the payment system that scans the palm of the hand. What started as a technological curiosity became a global standard. Stores, airports, concerts, supermarkets, thousands of places adopted this method. No cash, no cards, no passwords. Only your hand, only your body. At the same time, biometric passports became mandatory in dozens of countries. A document was no longer enough. Now full registration of the face, fingerprints, iris, and even digital behavior patterns is required. In some nations, you cannot renew your passport unless you accept these conditions. Your body is your identity. Your identity is your access. But that was only the beginning. And this is where the prophecy begins to move dangerously close to the present. The Bible speaks of a mark that determines who can participate in the economic system and who is excluded from it. A mark that is not only received, but accepted. A sign that implies loyalty to a global authority. Today, there is no global enforcement. That is true. But the mechanisms are already built.
And they will use it. We know they'll use it.
Official statements suggest that by 2026, mandatory biometric registration could be required to access essential services. A system where only the verified can legally exist. A system where being left out is not a risk, it is a sentence. And what happens if you do not accept this universal digital identity? You will not be able to buy, or sell, or travel, or study, or work, or receive medical assistance, or access the financial system, or even be recognized as a citizen. It sounds extreme. It sounds futuristic. It sounds apocalyptic. What once seemed like science fiction is now infrastructure. Is this the mark of the beast? Many deny it. They say there is no beast, no worship, no global figure. And that is true. Not yet. But if all the elements of the system are already here, if the technology, the structure, and the dependence already exist, then the question is not whether it can be used for total control, but when it will be, and who will direct it. The real danger is not in the chip, the scanner, or the QR code. It lies in something far more subtle, the voluntary surrender of freedom. 2025 was the year when the symbolic began to take literal form. 2026 could be the year when the literal becomes mandatory. And when that happens, the discussion will no longer be technological. It will be spiritual. Because the mark is never only about economic control. It is about loyalty, about worship. Prophecy number 4, the fall of Babylon. Revelation 18:2 says,
Who is Babylon, America or Rome?
Fallen is Babylon the Great, and she has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison of every unclean spirit. Babylon. That name has crossed.
A prison for each unclean creature. So America's going to be turned into a jailhouse for the demons. That's what he said. Listen to that again.
Mandatory. And when that happens, the discussion will no longer be technological. It will be spiritual. Because the mark is never only about economic control. It is about loyalty, about worship. Prophecy number 4, the fall of Babylon. Revelation 18:2 says, Fallen is Babylon the Great, and she has become a dwelling place of demons.
That suggests that the USA is going to be turned into a jail, a heavenly jail, doesn't it? What else can you take away from that?
Prison of every unclean spirit. Babylon. That name has crossed millennia, loaded with warnings. In the Bible, it is not just an ancient city, it is a symbol. It is the face of opulence without conscience, of a global system that trades even in what is sacred, of a civilization built on money, pleasure, and power, but that ultimately collapses because of its own corruption. Revelation 18 describes its fall with a solemnity that chills the blood. It does not speak of a military attack, nor a bomb, nor an invasion. It speaks of judgment, of accumulated decadence, of arrogance overflowing until the entire structure collapses under its own weight. For decades, theologians and scholars debated who or what the Great Babylon is. A modern nation? A financial capital? A global economic system intertwined across the world? A political architecture that dominates the nations? Or perhaps a combination of all of them? In 2025, that question stopped being hypothetical. That year, the world was shaken by an economic crisis that exposed the fragility of the global system like never before. Stock markets collapsed repeatedly. Corporate giants once considered untouchable fell into crisis. And supply chains already weakened by wars, geopolitical tensions, and extreme climate events left many countries without food, medicine, or essential goods. While families stood in endless lines to obtain bread, magnates increased their fortunes, exactly as the prophecy describes, a few growing richer while the many lose everything. The middle class collapsed in several regions. Millions were left unemployed. Extreme poverty reached levels not seen in 4 decades. Homes were lost. Basic services failed. And in the midst of the chaos, financial corruption, scandals emerged, massive fraud, embezzlement of public funds meant to stabilize the system, but ultimately benefiting the wealthiest. Is that not Babylon? A system that trades in the human soul. That puts a price on everything. That calculates the value of a life in statistics. That idolizes wealth and despises justice. 2025 revealed the cracks, but 2026 could reveal the collapse. Analysts warn that the world stands on the edge of a recession more severe than 2008. Global debt has grown so large that it can no longer be sustained. And while digital currencies emerge as a proposed solution, they also concentrate economic control in the hands of very few. A single failure, a key nation falling, a major bank collapsing, a global financial blackout could trigger a devastating domino effect. And if that happens, just as Revelation says, the merchants of the world will weep not out of compassion, but because
court cases are over.
no one buys their merchandise anymore. Global trade will halt. Markets will
Maybe you've got to be
crash,
convicted to go in
and
there.
wealth that once seemed eternal
I don't know,
will
Mum.
vanish within hours. But this is not only a financial crisis, it is a moral crisis, a spiritual crisis. Humanity no longer trusts its institutions. It no longer...
How in the hell could she get the sack, Diane? Dead set society's so backwards now.
believes in its leaders. It no longer expects justice from the powerful. Faith in money as salvation, the true modern God is crumbling. And the Bible foretold it when it said, "In 1 hour, such great riches came to nothing." In 1 hour, what seemed invincible collapses. What seemed eternal fades away. What seemed secure turns to dust. Babylon represents the heart of the system the world has idolized, and its fall will be the final proof that nothing endures without God. 2025 was the tremor. 2026 could be the fall. And when it happens, the world will understand the truth it always ignored. Gold cannot save you from judgment. Prophecy number 3. The dragon pursues the people of God. Revelation 12:17 says, "Then the dragon was enraged with the woman."
Okay, I've been arguing with the Catholics for the last week about Revelation 12, and they try to say the baby is Mary, or no, Mary's the one giving birth, and it's Catholics getting birth to. And I had to tell them, no, Mary is Israel, and the baby is the church. They really don't know nothing, guys. They're so-called these big wise Catholics, and most of them don't even know what I'm talking about when I bring up Bible verses. They don't read their Bible.
And went off to make war with the rest of her offspring, those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus Christ. The book of Revelation reveals one of the most powerful
Hey, Shawnee, good to see ya.
images in all of Scripture. A furious dragon, a direct
Shawnee, you know what? I used to go on the Muslims channel and troll them on Facebook, and they're pretty vicious, but they make the Catholics look like angels. Gee, the Catholics are very hateful, and they despise us Protestants. So naturally, I rub it in.
Satan, who, unable to destroy the woman who represents the faithful people of God, turns in rage against her offspring. Who are they? Those who keep the commandments of God, those who keep alive the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is not just another religious group. These are those who remain firm even when the entire world turns against them. For centuries, this war was interpreted as something spiritual, intangible, sometimes symbolic. But in 2025, everything changed. For centuries, this war was interpreted as something spiritual, intangible, sometimes symbolic. But in 2025, everything changed. The war stopped being invisible. It became global. It became concrete. It became personal. That year, persecution against Christians increased dramatically in every region of the world. Some nations carried it out openly, with violence and direct repression. Others did it silently, disguising their hostility under policies, algorithms, and rhetoric of so-called tolerance. In Asia,
we got them coming after the Jews here, as you know, guys. They're only picking on Christians. I don't know if they're picking on Christians.
Authoritarian regimes tightened their control over Christian communities. Churches were demolished or shut down. Pastors were arrested under fabricated charges. Digital Bibles were removed from app stores. Christian platforms were blocked simply for preaching Jesus. The message of salvation was labeled dangerous speech.
A new generation slingshot, carefully crafted by a Berlin arms factory, more accurate than a pistol and legally owned.
But perhaps the most disturbing developments occurred in the West. There, persecution is not seen, it is felt. It is silent, sophisticated.
Hey, Bobo, good to see you, mate.
Algorithms began to penalize Christian content. Words like sin, redemption, repentance, and salvation were classified as offensive language. Many channels were demonetized or shut down. Testimonies were deleted. Preachers were censored. Thousands of believers began to self-censor out of fear of losing their platform, their jobs, or their reputation. Revelation 12:17 speaks of a war not fought with swords or bullets. It is fought with narratives, with laws, with systems, with control of information. The weapon is deception, the victim, truth. In 2025, the infrastructure was established for a global repression of the gospel. and projections for 2026 are even more disturbing. In several countries, international laws are being prepared to punish speech considered religiously exclusionary. This could prevent the teaching of fundamental biblical truths.
They won't enforce that on the Muslims, though, just the Christians and Jews.
Judgment, repentance, sin, holiness. Not because they are false, but because they are uncomfortable. And most dangerous of all, new AI moderation systems could begin automatically deleting any explicit mention of Jesus Christ under parameters they call social coexistence. A world where the most powerful name of all is digitally erased. The dragon, enraged, is attacking systematically, censoring biblical content, blocking preaching, penalizing public faith, intimidating believers, punishing truth. Why? Because believers do not yield. They do not accept the system's new truths. They do not renounce Jesus Christ. And that is what enrages the dragon the most. The war has already begun. It is not fought on battlefields. It is fought on the internet, in government, in culture, in education, and in every human heart. 2025 lit the fuse. 2026 could be the year when speaking about God becomes a crime in multiple countries. A year when faith will be tested like never before. But Revelation is clear. The faithful people will endure. Because even if the dragon roars, he will not win. Never. Prophecy number 2. Unexplained afflictions. Revelation 16:2 says, "And a foul and malignant sore came upon the people who had the mark of the beast and who worshipped its image." One of the most disturbing plagues of Revelation does not speak of earthquakes, nor of fire, nor of angels with trumpets. It speaks of the human body, that reflects an invisible disease of the soul. And although this prophecy has always been interpreted with caution, something unsettling occurred in 2025. Something that led many to begin asking whether we were seeing its shadow manifesting over the world. That year, in different countries, outbreaks of unexplained skin diseases were reported. Severe inflammations, sores that burned like fire, painful rashes that spread without any apparent pattern. There were many hypotheses: new environmental toxins, accelerated viral mutations, exposure to industrial contaminants, massive immune system failures, but no explanation fully fit. Nothing aligned completely. And in the midst of that uncertainty, many began to remember Revelation 16:2, the plague that falls upon those who follow the beast, the ulcer that arises as judgment for submitting to a corrupt system, the wound that reveals what is happening spiritually on the inside. Is it the result of contamination, of chronic global stress, of constant electromagnetic radiation, of ultra-processed foods, or of technological interventions we still do not fully understand? Perhaps it is all of that. Or perhaps, just as the Bible has always warned, the spiritual realm is beginning to affect everything. Because the human body is not only flesh, it is a reflection of the soul. And when the soul moves away from God, the body eventually responds. For 2026, the projections are unsettling. Imagine millions of people who appear healthy, waking up one day with spots, burns, ulcers, deep inflammations. A plague that advances silently, without warning, without cure. A judgment that is not seen coming until it is already too late. Is this the literal beginning of the prophecy? Or is it only the prelude, the warning, the shadow that announces what is soon to come? We do not know with certainty, but what is clear is that the world has crossed biological, spiritual, and moral boundaries that should never have been crossed. And now, the human body is beginning to show signs that something is deeply wrong. 2025 was the warning. 2026 could be the manifestation. And if the wounds of the soul
Sorry,
are
guys, let's
already
stop
appearing
talking
on the
about-
skin, then the true remedy will not be medical. It will be spiritual. Prophecy number 1. Volcanoes like burning mountains. Revelation 8:8 says, "The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was hurled into the sea, and a third of the sea turned to blood."
Yeah.
In Revelation, it is described that the angel takes fire from the heavenly altar and throws it to the earth.
Diane, my Wi-Fi has been playing up the last 24 hours. I tried to watch Prime last night and it wouldn't load.
And then come thunder, voices, lightning, and a great earthquake. It is not just fire falling. It is heaven intervening directly in the physical world. And in 2025, quite literally, the earth roared as if that invisible fire had fallen upon it. June was the most explosive month of the entire year. In less than 48 hours, 3 sleeping giants awakened almost at the same time. Etna in
Wow.
Italy, Canlaon in the Philippines, and Sakurajima in Japan. 3 highly active volcanoes erupting simultaneously
Is that Mount Fuji? I think that's Mount Fuji.
on different continents. It did not seem like an accident. It felt like a sign. Columns of fire and ash rose kilometers into the sky. Entire cities were covered under a dark veil. Thousands of people were evacuated.
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Air traffic collapsed. And each volcanic explosion was accompanied by strong tremors that shook their regions as if the
Bobo, I don't know who Chris Ray is, so it didn't affect me.
earth itself was screaming. Satellites captured stunning images, red streams of lava advancing, dense ash clouds covering entire territories, and seismic lights illuminating the night sky. Seismographs around the world seemed unable to rest. It was as if the entire planet had entered a phase of convulsion. And the most striking part is that it did not stop there. That same month, volcanoes dormant for decades began to show signs of internal pressure. The Earth's crust appeared to be under a tension no one could fully explain. But lava was only part of the disaster. Many of the tremors caused by volcanic activity triggered landslides, massive power outages, interruptions to drinking water supplies, air pollution, and the forced evacuation of more than 300,000 people. Entire regions were paralyzed. Cities buried in toxic dust. Families fleeing beneath blackened skies. And then the inevitable question arose. Is the Earth reacting? Are we witnessing the first flashes of a prophetic judgment announced 2,000 years ago? Revelation describes a heavenly fire that unleashes earthquakes and natural chaos. And although this could seem symbolic, what we witnessed was far too physical, far too global, far too synchronized.
You're going to
But
have
if
to have
2025 was the warning, what might 2026 bring? Geologists are not hiding their concern. Several magma chambers beneath dormant volcanoes are showing abnormal activity. In places like Yellowstone in the United States, sensors are detecting movements that unsettle even the most optimistic scientists. The Pacific Ring of Fire, home to 75% of the planet's volcanoes, is on constant alert. Experts have said it plainly. It is not a question of if a major eruption will occur. It is a question of when. And if a massive volcanic collapse happens, the consequences will be global. Darkening of the atmosphere for months, reduced sunlight, and a worldwide food crisis. Colossal tsunamis triggered by underwater eruptions. Forced migrations of millions of people. Extreme climatic disruptions. What if the fire taken from the altar has already begun to burn? Humanity has drilled into, polluted, and exhausted the Earth's resources for generations. And now, the Earth seems to be responding with fire, ash, smoke, and trembling.
Man.
Judgment does not always arrive.
I had a hard time getting back there. I went to load the next program. I had trouble getting back.
Accompanied by visible angels. Sometimes it comes with mountains that explode, with ground that splits open, with skies that grow dark. 2025 ignited the first spark. 2026 could be the year when the earth unleashes all its prophetic fury. And when buildings collapse, the seas rage, and mountains scream with lava, we will remember something many chose to ignore. Heaven warned us. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for opening your heart to these signs, for not ignoring what many prefer to silence, for wanting to see beyond the chaos, the purpose. These prophecies are urgent calls, echoes of a God who is still speaking even in the midst of fire, sea, disease, and collapse.
Wow, Di, that genetic thing, wow.
We are living in intense days, and what is coming will be even more decisive. But if the book of Revelation teaches us anything, it is that God never abandons his own, that in the middle of tribulation there is hope, that even when the world is shaken, the one who trusts in him remains firm. And that is why today I invite you to leave a phrase in the comments. One I want us to remember together as a community. My faith does not tremble, even if the earth trembles. Write it below. Make it your own. And by doing so, you are not only expressing a belief.
Okay, I enjoyed that. This will be good, Tony. Extinction level event.
Optus secures AI, so you'll feel good turning your list to do its job, knowing the right controls are in place.
It takes only 3 seconds to cut a steel plate. Weld a loose railing in 2 seconds. This is the portable laser welding tool that caused a stir at the Berlin Hardware Show. Priced at $48 today.
It's not a good thing. The real risk with AI isn't malice, but competence. A super intelligent AI will be Today is the day, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. Of course, a number of things are happening this day. We have a certain object coming nearest to the Earth today. We'll get into that. We have also certain files, of course, landing today. And actually, we already have a little close.
Bobo, I don't know what they are.
A little bit of a look. We'll get into that. We actually have a ton of other things as well. We have Whoopi Goldberg on The View complaining about veterans getting their checks, bonuses next year. We'll get into that. We got a ton of other stuff, including Chick-fil-A stepping in it, AI running amok, and a host of other things. We'll just get into all this, and actually we're going to get into also something that happened at this AmFest that I didn't cover on my other channel, and actually a number of other things. Let's just get going here. Let's start here with Whoopi Goldberg and this $1,776 Christmas bonuses going to the troops, and what she had to say, what the whole panel had to say. Check this out.
He says tariff revenue. That's what I'm most intrigued to see if that's actually the case. Listen, coming off of the
I took my
government
phone. I got to
shutdown.
check that with ChatGPT because I don't believe that.
Well, in the delay that they all had of that, they got back pay, but I mean, people need help. But all Americans need help right now.
Yeah.
And just the handout isn't the answer. Smart policies are the
Well,
answer.
what he's doing is he's thinking, if I make sure that the soldiers have what they need, they'll back me in what I want. Say,
That's how it works, you idiot. Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg, she's named after a whoopee cushion because she farts so much they call her Whoopi. So, what a charming name to have. My name's Fart.
Oh, okay. So she's saying that basically it's a buy-off or something. I don't think so. I don't think $1,700 is going to buy anybody off. It's not that much money. It is something that I think is definitely deserved. On top of that, he is going to give us, actually, from what he said, a tariff sort of dividend or something like that next year when we get our taxes, when we get our tax refunds. So we got that as well. But at any rate, you also have here apparently Chick-fil-A stepping in it, at least one location, celebrating a marriage between, of course, two men. As you can see here in the picture, Dougie and Toby just got married. Let's celebrate. Apparently, Chick-fil-A celebrating it. I mean, honestly, okay, not something you would exactly expect from Chick-fil-A. Not really, considering the ownership, right? Supposedly Christian, all that kind of stuff. Although there are some Christians that are, well, I mean, not very many. There's a few out there, very, very small minority that are okay with that. But at any rate, so you got that. I'm guessing it didn't work out too well for Chick-fil-A. Let's put it that way. You have, this is the most ridiculous thing I've seen, I think, from Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian said she threw out her back and could hardly walk when she studied. She studied for the bar exam. Kim Kardashian here says that basically she threw out her back. Let's just check out what she had to say.
And it's like every time I like think I get to another step, like something pulls me back, and it's just like something. There's all.
So of course, she obviously failed the bar exam, and she's trying to put it or pin it on something else. Apparently, her back being thrown out. She also had some weird tests where they're analyzing her brain or something, and it said she had a small lobe or something in her. I don't have that clip in front of me, but like she was shocked when she heard it. Like, maybe not the highest IQ in the world. Let's just put it that way. Maybe not the highest IQ in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you had a hard time at the bar exam. I don't know. You have here AI run amok, my friends. This is getting crazy actually at this point. I wanted to show you this clip that I played over on my business channel recently. Check this out. This is crazy. Look how realistic this is. Let's turn off the music. I don't know if there's a copyright or anything. You can see there the Matrix, but let's start it back at the beginning. So you have here, obviously, Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox. You got here the Keanu Reeves and the Matrix crew back in the 90s. Was it Michael J. Fox 80s? This is like the 70s with Star Wars. And this would probably be the.
About a month ago, I bought a kilo of prawns for $20. The same prawns now going for $45 yesterday. I went down to get some for lunch, and they're too dear. I'm not paying $45 a kilo. And they got grapes at $12 a bunch of grapes.
Late 90s with Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think that might be Terminator 1. This is a later Indiana Jones, maybe 2010, 2020. I don't know. And then you got Harry Potter. So you can tell, I mean, it looks very realistic. This is all AI, of course. And this guy is saying that.
I don't reckon it does. I reckon you can tell it's a video.
Within 2 or 3 years, there'll be no way to tell what's real and what's not. I have no idea how humanity will deal with this enormous problem. Regarding our wonderful, of course, extinction coming our direction, my friends, we have, of course, a number of stories. AI projected to match New York City's 2025 carbon emissions. Of course, I just showed you the clip from Sora AI that looks literally like a movie. Looks like he was basically hanging out with the guys from The Matrix, which of course is an AI movie, hanging out with Arnold Schwarzenegger from The Terminator, which is another AI robotic movie, kind of spelling out a little bit of our future. We're already seeing it come out and come to pass in front of us with these massive data centers sucking up all the energy around the world, actually, well, particularly in America, and China. I think they got some big ones as well. What's interesting, of course, is now it's matching New York City's carbon emissions. You have these data centers being built in people's backyards everywhere around suburbs across America. People talking about weird humming sounds coming from them. I'm sure there's going to be some Terminator 2s coming out of those places soon here as well. I'm just joking, of course. I mean, the fact is, obviously, these things are sort of like a highlight or a hallmark of what our future might be. You got Joe Rogan here talking about AI is going to take away our jobs. And I did mention that there is some good news on one video that the AI market is not doing too well right now. They're going completely broke. So maybe it's going to be stunted. Maybe it'll stop for another 5 years or a year or something as they've completely and utterly ran out of money trying to increase their computing power. So that's some good news, I guess. At least they're running out of money, so it's slowing them down. Check out what Joe Rogan has to say here.
Like, you're going to have some way to feed people. You're going to have to, like, people are not going to have jobs anymore. They're going to go away. We're inefficient and we are late.
Yeah, but they're telling us that they're going to just give us money. They're going to just give us money for no reason. We're going to all be rich, according to Elon. For some reason, I have a hard time believing that. You know what I mean? Like, why would they want us around? You know what I mean?
Lazy, and we are entitled, and we like to think we're doing a far more important thing than we really are. And everybody does that. Everybody's like, without me, this office would fall apart.
Honestly,
I like Joe Rogan. I hadn't heard of him till about 6 months ago or so. No, when he went for Trump, that's when I learned of him. I like Joe Rogan.
though he is kind of right in some respects, but he's also wrong, because we talked about how these AIs are not doing as hard as they thought they were going to do. A lot of these jobs that they tried to take over with AI actually went sideways. They ended up getting rid of the AI because it wasn't doing a good job. But again, we don't know how long that will be before they finally, ultimately, get these AIs really on track to where they can take our jobs. We had, of course, Stephen Hawking back in the old days telling us that it's not a good thing. The real risk with AI isn't malice, but competence. A super intelligent AI will be extremely good at accomplishing its goals, and if those goals aren't aligned with ours, we're in trouble. Yeah, honestly, that is probably the case. I mean, they'll just turn us into batteries like they did in the Matrix, right? But of course, there's also other types of ways we can go wonderfully extinct. How about the fact that we just simply aren't reproducing anymore? That might be another way. Check this out.
The rates are falling all over the world, including in this country, and some governments are starting to panic over it.
Is the pregnancy rate dropping?
The liberals have no survival instinct. Imagine hating your own species so much, hating yourself so much that you want to go extinct. And since the Democrats have stripped their base of the truth, I'm going to go ahead and say the thing. In our most basic form, we're here to reproduce. Like, that's it. Biologically, it's what we are here to do. Believing anything else is a lie. The declining birth rate crisis isn't something to celebrate. Democracy is a numbers game.
Yeah, this is interesting, of course, on top of the fact that these women celebrating, they don't realize that their leaders are the ones building these AI data centers. Like, hate yourself. Don't reproduce. We got robots to replace you, by the way. We don't need you anymore. So, of course, they didn't tell you that part.
And we are getting replaced by civilizations who don't have...
Oh, we're going to be replaced by robots and civilizations, both, actually. If we keep going the way we're going. Of course, a lot of people just assume that those that look like me are in the majority, but actually worldwide, we're in the...
I did know he's MMA,
minority at this point, only 8% of the world. Looks like me. And of course, they tell us that we're the ones in power, we're the ones doing everything, but it doesn't seem like that's really the case anymore when you look at these numbers. It's not looking very well. At any rate, you get kind of the idea. Let's get into some other stuff here. We got McDonald's, apparently I covered it some of the other channels as well, closing up early in a number of locations, started closing branches off altogether because of teens going in and
I can't even go near McDonald's now. Have they done that expose on what they put in their food? And a couple of people found teeth in it. I'm not eating that. Wow. Where do they get the bodies to do that? That's my question.
and crazy, throwing things, yelling, with absolutely no discipline. It's really crazy, actually.
Did you guys see the girl who took one of those mushroom gummies and deep cleaned her whole house at 2 a.m.? Yeah, I thought it was a joke too, until I tried though. I took 2 after dinner just to see what would happen, and suddenly I'm deep cleaning my room and wiping down my counters. I've never been so focused. These gummies have 2,500 milligrams of 7 functional mushrooms plus ashwagandha, and I'm glad I went with Glowfair because each bottle has 60 gummies.
There you go,
so they
bye-bye.
last.
I'll get you that for
They
Christmas.
have a 90-day money back.
You see them outside there. I mean, they're like taught. Where are they taught any values here? You know what I mean? Like, this is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and there's actually numerous of them like this where they're actually closing in the middle of the day now, and some of them just straight. That one right there just straight closed altogether. Never coming back. Give it like 3 days notice or something like that. Usually, you're supposed to give a month notice. And we're going to get into it, like I said, a ton of stuff. You got 3i Atlas going on. Got some weird clips of that. You got the files that were released today. Got a little bit on that. Doesn't look good for Billy. Billy there, Clinton. Yes, it does look very good. I got some weird stuff. Candace and Erica. They're back to fighting already, my friends. Only took a day off, apparently. It's a couple days off. Oh, we're going to get along a little bit. Throwing shots at each other. I'm going to show you both of them doing it. Already. We got a ton of other stuff. First, like I mentioned, food supply 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 3 months worth. They got a new deal. Go check it out. Link is in the description, my friends. It's the bigger package. It's got 2,000 plus calories. Again, they went back to the bigger one. Link is in the description. This book here, The Lost Ways. A great grandfather lived without electricity. How to sell, do things around the house as they did in the old days. So there's illustrated enough to need that. Before the power goes out and the way things are going, I would not be surprised whatsoever, considering I had a dream about it. People have been talking about it. We have this 3i Atlas going by the closest today to the Earth, already giving off a weird frequency, a Fibonacci frequency, that ties into the same frequency as the Earth gives with earthquakes. Okay, very bizarre. Some are wondering what's going to happen over the next few days because it's apparently going to be near the Earth for the next 3 days. Anyway, all the links are in the description for that stuff. Also, go check me out on X, on Twitter, follow Twitter.
L.A. Marzulli's got a good one on Atlas. I'll play it tomorrow, guys.
I'm trying to get that thing going. I had about 0.5% of you guys over there, literally. Almost no one was seeing my posts over there. So ever since I started actually trying to ask people to go over there, I'm starting to see a lot more activity. I think we could jumpstart the thing and get it finally going right. If I just keep plugging away, asking you guys to go over there, I think we'll finally get a lot of people over there. It'll sort of jumpstart it and get it really going. Go check that out. Link is in the description. I'm actually posting over there regularly now. Let's get back to the video. We have here Stephen Burns here talking about 3i Atlas. He says that we need to be checking the next 3 days. I played that over my other channel. I wanted to get into something else that he presented. Very interesting. He mentioned about the strange energy burst detected on Earth during 3i Atlas perigee. Closest approach to Earth, which was, I think, earlier this morning. This is strange, guys. We have a 25 hertz signal that appeared in Schumann resonances. 240 UTC. It's 3 hours and 20 minutes before the calculated exact closest approach to 3 iota to Earth. These sort of energy bursts in the Schumann resonances are very rare, not to be mistaken for local atmospheric fluctuations. And for it to coincide exactly when the interstellar object is closest to Earth is a bit beyond coincidental. Obviously, this is kind of interesting. We also had some weird posts of footage from the space station. But I wanted to show you this clip. I thought this is really interesting. I was going to be showing this picture first. Put it on the screen. This is a picture of the object. Let me show it in video form. This is just a still from it. You can see here, it looks like there's points around some sort of center. And it fluctuates. And it reminds me of the book of Ezekiel, the way it looks. Look at this thing. It's got a weird resonance to it. Very strange frequency going on with that thing. It clearly looks like there's something around it, rotating around it, and it reminds me of wheels within wheels in Ezekiel. Could this be some massive version of that in space? Could we be seeing something of life? Could this be some sort of ship? Who knows? Obviously not in the conventional manner that we would think of, but maybe something altogether different. And Avi Loeb talking about this again. He keeps doing interviews about this. We had something strange seen. I've seen a number of clips of recent. This was from a few days ago from the International Space Station, where they saw some weird V-shaped thing on its live stream. There's other things being posted as well. Very strange. Let me show you this one. I didn't show this over my other channel. You can see this thing floating by. What is that? And it's on the day, it's on today, but this was seen during the time when it was closest to Earth. Talking about 3 a.m., of course that was. So some are wondering what this could be. Could it be related? We don't know. I guess we'll find out if anything strange happens over the next couple days while it's closest to Earth. Is there going to be some sort of change? Interestingly, also, on the exact same day today, we had the files released. Of course, a lot of people are just tweeting up, oh, look, see, ha, nothing shown. All black, like this. Obviously, they're showing entirely redacted stuff, right? But actually, that is not the case, actually. And they're just showing, like, the worst parts of it. Because actually, from what I can tell, I'll show you in a minute here, you can see these are completely not redacted in this story right here. I mean, if there's tons of redacted, they would have shown it all, but this is all they could pull up like that, which is interesting. You have a lady here showing a portion of it. This is probably more accurate of what it would look like, which of course still has tons of redacted in it. But it's all the files, apparently. I guess we'll learn if there's anything new from what I've heard so far. Early analysis is those that are not exactly on our president's side. Oh, their names are shown. That's kind of weird. So even if we don't get everyone, if we even get a third of them, that's a hell of a lot more than what we had, right? So I'm really hoping it is what we're hearing. It's obviously very preliminary. Okay, it's very preliminary, but I've heard that Billy Boy, Clinton is listed in there very prominently. I'm curious who else. We'll find out as time goes on here. Once people act, this literally just came out like an hour ago, by the way. So no one's had time to analyze it, but it's come out. You're going to start seeing videos in the next couple of days after people have analyzed it. But you have here Kamala talking with Kimmel about this. Check this out.
Why didn't the Biden administration release those files? Was that something that they felt would look bad when running against this guy, or why didn't they come out during your administration?
To give you an answer that will not satisfy your curiosity, I will tell you, we, perhaps to our damage, but we strongly and rightly believe that there should be an absolute separation between what we wanted as an administration and what the Department of Justice did. Separation.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, kind of like put it up to like some sort of ethics. We wanted to be really ethical about it. We didn't want to release them, of course. We wanted to keep ourselves completely utterly separate from this other entity over here, which is completely corrupt as well. I mean, give me a break, dude. Obviously, you just didn't want to release it because you'd get all in trouble. That's the whole entire point. We have Billy Boy here. It looks like he's prominently shown in it. I'm guessing he's going to get in trouble. Maybe, just a little bit. Of course, some other people might be in there as well. We did have Tulsi calling this guy in. This guy right here has recently purchased a very nice mansion over in the UK and has moved a lot of his assets over there. I'm curious if the guy might also be in there. I don't know. We'll find out if he is or not. And if it's listed, it's kind of interesting. I'm curious what is all in there. It's clearly not all redacted. People are doing that, just being retarded. Ugh! I mean, goodness, you can't even give me an entire snapshot of everything completely redacted. Clearly, it's not all redacted, dude. I mean, you literally have 3 pages completely unredacted, shown in the list you were showing. They're all just posting the same thing, not even looking at it. I mean, goodness gracious, why don't you actually look at it, dude, and just see if there's something in there? Then you got this, apparently, Erica taking a little bit of an indirect swipe, I think, at, of course, Candace. Check this out.
You know, it's really interesting. The enemy has thrown a lot of curveballs at us today and this week and the past 3 months, and one of them is the fact that my entire speech has been wiped because my iPad won't even turn on. So that's a fun technical difficulty that we can figure out. So we're just going to wing it. We're just going to wing it.
I think she actually says something about Egyptian, planes or something, and then her iPad comes on. It's like so funny. It's like, look, she's part of it. Of course, that was just a weird coincidence. Obviously, if it was really that, I think she would have figured that not to show that on screen if it really was true, but obviously it didn't. But she happened to say the word Egyptian. It wasn't plain. She just said Egyptian, and then her iPad turned on. Oh, they got to her iPad. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm just joking. Obviously, there is something to that whole thing, from what I understand, the planes, according to Tuckmeister. He said he verified that there is legitimacy to it. I don't know fully about it, but it sounds like there is at least some legitimacy to it. Apparently, now she has interviewed some guy that says that he had seen Erica at a certain...
Diane, you're not going to believe this. I watched a bit of the highlights of Oz the other day, and I picked up another 2 things in it. There's a spiral in it. At the beginning of the Yellow Brick Road, that's a spiral, and we know spirals are entrances to dimensions. So I spotted that, and I spotted something else that was pretty good too. Can't remember what it was. But there's a spiral in Oz. And she comes out of it.
Place. Okay. She saw Brian Harpole and, of course, Erica at some I don't even know how to say it. Huacha. How do you say that? Huachuca. Okay. The day before, of course, Charlie died. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, goodness gracious, they probably fly everywhere. Who knows?
No. When I saw him...
Yeah, apparently the Munchkins are little terrors.
On the interview with his face and gestures, with that photo, it struck me in my gut. Some other pictures that came up with other people.
What other people? Other pictures?
If you want me to say, there's a picture of Erica Kirk with a ponytail, and from her past.
So that's weird. So he's saying that there's some other weird thing with Erica here, and again, this is after the fact, after their meeting. So you got both of them are sort of taking.
I think it's turning out that Charlie Kirk was a sacrifice. I reckon it's starting to look more like that than anything.
Pipes at each other, it seems like, already again. Not really shocking at all. Women, there's probably more to it than that, but I mean, it's not surprising when it's 2 women. Let's just put it that way, 2 women. All right, so then you got this. Apparently, you got men doing it too. We got the Tuckmeister versus Ben Shapiro. Let's play this. Check this out.
As they have their eye set on 2028. Turning Point USA's biggest annual event, America Fest, or AmFest, kicked off last night with fireworks, both literal and figurative. But what happened between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson is just a microcosm of a much larger issue. This isn't just about two major media personalities having a beef over Israel's influence in America. This is about the neocon plot to try to hijack and redefine MAGA, especially in a post-Trump presidency.
Yeah, that's interesting. Of course, they're setting up for the time after he's out, and we definitely don't want to join. Or
he's not going anywhere. He's going to stay on for a third term.
Go back to the whole Bush thing. Oh, let's get another rhino! Yay! Yeah, I'm really not interested in a rhino, dude. It's already bad enough as it is. It's already bad enough. We don't need more of that. It's already just like we're halfway going somewhere now. Okay, we need to go full. We got to go back to how it was the first 6 months, where things were good, or at least going the right direction. Now we're like halfway going the right direction. We need to fix this thing. I mean, we need to get more going. All right. And of course, RFK Jr. was not at AmFest, according to Tim Pool. And our president has now reclassified marijuana. So that's kind of interesting. He showed it as a lesser drug classification. And the country itself, not just your state, but the country itself is now looking at it as having medical purposes. Check out what our president had to say. Let's just play this.
And some more, including numerous veterans with service-related injuries and older Americans who live with chronic medical problems that severely degrade their quality of life. And it's so really, I mean, just, I can't tell you, I think I probably have received more phone calls on this, on doing what we're doing. I don't think I've received any calls on the other side of it, but hopefully this reclassification.
So it's reclassified.
Which, by the way, holds at 82%.
Yeah, most people are in favor of this. It's obviously not as bad as these other drugs out there. It clearly is something that has benefit, obviously, because some people use it for medical benefit. I think there is actually some spiritual aspect to it as well. I mentioned before, they've done archaeological digs on ancient Israeli temples and found hash, meaning they literally used it during their sacrifices as part of the incense being burnt, I think.
Is that true,
So
Bobo?
this is something that
Wow.
was used in spiritual practices even during the ancient times. And so you had, of course, Ben Shapiro and
They've cancelled Christmas Day at Bondi Beach.
Meister essentially fighting with
Or I think you're going to have a coppers walking around with rifles. It's one or the other.
each other there.
We got our New Year's Eve coming up soon, and we have 1 million people pour into Sydney to watch the fireworks from the bridge. And if they want to set off bombs, that'd be the best time to do it.
Taking jabs at one another. And I think, honestly, you can see there is some weird stuff going on, though, with the whole thing. They didn't invite RFK Jr. They invited Myra Gaines, apparently, as a VIP, and then they kicked him out, which is weird. That's what happened to him, apparently. They denied access to him at AmFest. And I mentioned about something funny that was sort of seen. Well, it's not funny as well. Apparently, Grindr having severe outage in Phoenix during the Turning Point USA convention, if you know what that means. Lots of people hooking up that probably shouldn't be hooking up. Well, these people that claim to be traditional conservatives, of course, all hooking up on it. Yeah. So you got that going on. Then you got, last thing I wanted to cover, you got this guy from Wretched. His name is Todd Friel. He's saying that Kirk Cameron's completely wrong about the hell topic. Remember, I've talked about this multiple times recent. This guy's completely clueless. Todd Friel here. Let's just play a little bit of this, and I'm going to get into this a little bit.
Kirk Cameron espousing a new position. He's evolved in his thinking about the eternality of hell. I would like to offer 4 reasons I believe annihilationism is wrong. Argument number one. Who's right? Annihilationism or ECT? Who's right? The entire Christian church, who for the last
ECT is eternal conscious torment.
2,000 years believe that the lost are condemned to eternal conscious torment, or
Oh, so what did he just say there? Let me see what he's saying. Let me just look at his words. The last 2,000 years, this is total bullshit. So he says here, the entire Christian church for the last 2,000 years, this is 100% a lie, what he just said.
entire Christian church, who for the last 2,000 years believe that the lost are condemned to eternal conscious torment.
No, that's not true. Not even remotely correct. If this guy's ever read, he's never read the Ante-Nicene Early Church Fathers. It's very obvious he's never read them, because there was 3 viewpoints, and even in St. Augustine's time, which was around 400 AD, he said his viewpoint, eternal conscious torment, was a minority viewpoint. It wasn't even the most popular, common viewpoint of his time. Imagine only 30% of people in his time, just an example, 30%, that would be a minority viewpoint. Let's say it was 30%, probably not much more than 40, probably definitely even 40%. 40% or less, probably like 20, 30% believed what everyone today believes. During the time of 400 AD, if you go back farther than that, you have even more diversity of opinion. There's actually 3 major opinions back then. One was eternal conscious torment. The other one was annihilationism, which is what Kirk Cameron's talking about. And the third one is called universal restorationism, which is what Clement of Alexandria and Origen taught, which is basically God saves everyone through the pains of hell, through this place that's beneficial discipline. People eventually come to the truth and have faith in Christ. This is what they taught. Now, my viewpoint is similar to Kirk Cameron's. I believe that in annihilationism, but I also believe that people can get saved in the afterlife. So, in a sense, it's kind of like I got a little bit of the third one with.
Okay, that's a huge flaw. Man, how did they come to Jesus from hell? Jesus don't hear prayers from hell. Wow. Tony, you disappoint me, mate.
The second one, kind of, not exactly though. I believe that lots of people are not able to say, but particularly evil, super evil people that would be super far from God. I don't think they have even any way to get back to God. In the afterlife, you're probably in the lowest levels of hell. You're Tartarus, you know what I mean? So my whole thing is like, one of the things that's interesting though, because this guy just assumes that everyone thought the same thing, which is completely not true. How about you actually study the early church fathers before you talk, Tadriel? How's that sound? Might be helpful to you. Then you would actually know what you're talking about. So the fact is, though, there was something that all the early church fathers agreed on that people don't believe today. That's kind of interesting. So there is one thing they all were universally agreeing on about the afterlife that people today mostly don't believe. So I would think if anybody would be correct, it would be the disciples of the apostles, or people that were right after the disciples. They might know a thing or two that we don't know. Obviously, I wouldn't trust a scholar from today compared to someone from the ancient times who actually lived around the time of the disciples and apostles, that 100 AD or something. They may know a little bit more than we do. They taught that we go to an intermediate state, which means a temporary hell heaven. That's what they mean by they actually call it the intermediate state. And it's referring to Hades. Hades is not hell. Hades is the afterlife. It's called the pit in the Old Testament, and it's called hell in the New Testament. Does that make any sense? Sheol is Hades. Sheol is translated the pit in the Old Testament. Hades is translated hell in the New Testament. How about we just be consistent? Old and New Testament, let's be very consistent with our words and how we use them. Hades and Sheol are the exact same place. Okay, if you use Greek and Hebrew in the Old Testament, they call Sheol Hades in the Greek Septuagint. So let's be being consistent. The pit, or not? I mean, the pit, or no, is it the pit? Or I think when they say pit, they mean like your grave. The grave pit. This is what they basically say. They say grave or pit versus hell. Exact same word, Sheol Hades. It means the afterlife is what it means. It doesn't mean hell. It doesn't mean the grave. It means the afterlife. And according to the early fathers, there's an upper level and a lower level. The lower level is hellish. Upper level is heavenly. And this temporary state is until the judgment seat of Christ, where everything's judged. And then after that, you have New Heaven, New Earth, and Jerusalem, and the lake of fire. So you either go to the higher levels of Hades, lower levels of Hades, and you're in this temporary state until the judgment seat of Christ. And that was something they all agreed upon, but today no one teaches this really. I think it's interesting. So I think that actually, and then also there were some of them that believed you could get out of the lower levels to the higher levels. Some of them believed it, some didn't, some believed it, some didn't. On the early church fathers. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's saying that all 2,000 years believe the same thing. It's complete and utter bullshit. Anyway.
This decides America, James Caddis. We like James, guys.
We don't pay attention, we'll be in big trouble. And folks, if you don't think that the Speaker of Israel's Knesset just said something that should cause all to think very carefully about the future of mankind. If we don't pay attention, we'll be in big trouble. And folks, if you don't think that what he says is credible, then it's time to take a closer look at Bible prophecy. All right, folks, let's get into it. I have to say, I had quite a smile on my face when I saw the title of this article for a lot of reasons that we're going to get into. And this one, folks, let me tell you, is a doozy. So let's pay attention to this. And by the way, if you understand Israeli politics, then you'll understand why I've got a bit of a smile on my face, because it involves the Knesset speaker, who for all intents and purposes appears to be a wonderful man, but he certainly is not a believer in Jesus Christ. And folks, I have to tell you, what he says here is reflective of the whole picture, especially that which involves the Messiah. So let me read this. It says, Knesset speaker makes case that being pro-Israel is indeed America first. Yes, I had to throw in indeed. Let's get into the article. It says this: Israel's parliament speaker has put a new twist on the concept of America first, which, by the way, let me make myself very, very clear. This is not a new twist on the concept of America first. I have always argued that America first means being good to Israel. America only means being good to nobody, quite frankly. But let me just simply say, if you care about the well-being of the United States of America, you will have a good relationship with the state of Israel. Okay, I have said that from the very beginning. I base that on what the Bible says. We know what the Bible says concerning these things. Nonetheless, let's jump into this. And by the way, I can tell you it's a good argument that he's making, coming from a distinctly secularist perspective, for lack of a better term. So let's look at this. It says, an increasing number of those who subscribe to the America First philosophy, which prioritizes the United States in foreign and domestic policy spheres, has grown critical of the U.S.-Israel relationship, which these adherents say favors Jerusalem too much. Which, by the way, it's just obscene, okay? I don't want to get into the mechanics of all of it, but so much of what people in this movement that seems to want to stop any relationship with Israel, so much of what we see in that movement is literally predicated upon things that are not even fact, okay? They're not factual. And that's why I think this is so insane. But that we'll save for another day, another discussion at another time. Let's go on with the article. It says this: Amir Ohana, the Knesset speaker, said in a talk in Washington last week that the United States reaps tangible benefits from its relation with the Jewish state. And that is indeed a statement that is founded in truth. It is nested in truth. Look at his quote. He says, for the $3.8 billion America invests annually in Israel, the returns are estimated at $48 billion in defense contracts, shared research and development, and real-world testing that accelerates U.S. hardware upgrades, he said. Israeli technologies protect American troops. And he is right. There is a lot of truth to that statement, and so much of Israel technology right now is indeed doing that in the Middle East for more reasons than one and in more places than one. Look what he goes on to say. He says, our medical innovations save American lives. Our cyber units shield American networks. Our intelligence defends the American homeland, which, by the way, he is absolutely right to say that. As a matter of fact, when I was the chief information officer of a local municipal police department here in Southern California, the best tools that we utilized in the networking field were all purchased from Israeli vendors. Why? Because they had stuff that was way ahead of its time that did so much better than anything that was available to us here in the United States. And quite frankly, by us purchasing all of that technology from Israel, we were actually benefiting ourselves substantially, because not only were we saving money with what we would spend with American vendors, we were actually helping American vendors out. And the story for how that happens is kind of a long, dragged out one, but I can explain that another day as well. It was always hugely beneficial for us to work with them, and we always got a lot more out of the deal than we felt like they were getting out of the deal. Believe me when I say that. Let's go on with Ohana's quote. He says this: "Many want access to Israel's capabilities, but guess who gets them?" He said, "America first." And indeed, that would be a correct assertion. And I will tell you this, that should be the natural benefit that would come as a result of the way that we've stood with Israel. But I hope that we could do that even more than we have in the past, because some of the things that we have done in the past, especially under the Obama administration and certainly under the Otto-Pen administration, has been very unkind and very outright evil to Israel. Look at the next paragraph. It says, JNS asked the Knesset speaker how Israel can make the case to disaffected young Americans that U.S.-Israel bonds are broader than biblical foundations and shared values. Ohana said there is no need to choose between the traditional view of the relationship and the one he expressed on Wednesday. Well, why is he saying that? I can tell you why he's saying that. Because they are both predicated on things that are truthful. Look, you'll hear him say it himself. Look what he says. And here's his quote. "It's about the Judeo-Christian values that we share, the values of freedom and democracy and liberty, which Israel represents in our region. But it is also a matter of interest." Okay, I just want to make myself clear because this is super important, okay? Understand the fact that these values are Judeo-Christian, that freedom was God's idea, it's not man's idea, and the idea...
Nice. Isn't the Star of David satanic? I'm pretty sure it is.
idea that we pursue freedom in Western civilization is something that was inspired by God Almighty, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who chose to give us our Messiah that we might be able to have salvation and victory over sin. And so, although the Jewish population might not necessarily see their Messiah just yet, the Bible says they will. Understand we have so much in common with them, and let me add to that, we have a lot to thank them for. We have every reason to be extremely grateful for all that God has done through these very special people because of what they've given to us. And that is so important. We have the things that we have because they are remarkable people who God enabled to be able to provide for the rest of the world. And some people might not like hearing me say that, but that is the truth. You wouldn't even have a cell phone if it wasn't for Jews. So that's a super important thing for us to be able to understand here. Look what it goes on to say. Ohana said that there is a thriving global market for Israeli technologies and intelligence, but Washington, due to its relationship with the Jewish state, gets it first. And that's always been the case, folks. Look at what he goes on to say. I think they are making a very good investment. There are many other interests that we share, so it's values and interests, hearts and minds. And that's true. We line up with Israel. Of course we share those interests. And of course, we become the first beneficiary of doing that thing. So look what it goes on to say. Ohana said on Wednesday that the Israel-Hamas war and the related threats to American interests from Iran and the Houthis in Yemen, quote, confirm that strong allies do not drain American strength. That's right. Look what he goes on to say. He says they multiply. Israel helped prevent an attempt by the Ayatollah regime of Iran to dominate a region vital to global stability and American interests. And he's right, guys. He's not wrong about that. Look at the next paragraph. Amid increasing criticism, including from Republicans, of the U.S. military aid package to Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said last month that, quote, the most important thing is that we want to strengthen our independent capabilities. And look what he goes on to say. I want to eliminate or at least significantly reduce our dependence on external supplies, even from very good and truly loyal friends like the United States, he said. I want us to be as self-reliant as possible. Let me tell you why I'm worried about that statement.
That's fair enough.
I'm worried about that statement not because I believe that Bibi Netanyahu cannot achieve that. I'm not worried about that statement because I'm concerned as to whether or not Israel can be independent. I'm worried about that statement because the very moment we take our hands off of helping Israel, I think that we're not going to be better off as a result. I think there are certain blessings that we miss out on when we don't do that, which is why I love the idea that our hands continue to stay on helping Israel, because we become ultimately the greatest beneficiaries of that. And I think that that's important to understand. Look what it goes on to say. It says, JNS sources say that Israeli officials and allies in Congress have began taking steps to shape a future defense relationship focused more on joint research and development and other initiatives rather than traditional defense aid. They said that even as much of that funding returns to U.S. arms manufacturers. Guys, let me just make myself clear. What they're doing when they're talking about this, when they're talking about, allies in Congress and so on and so forth, making these arrangements to talk about this mutually beneficial relationship, all they're doing is they're figuring out a way to frame the issue that's actually happening with Israel, because we already are heavily mutually beneficial subjects of these types of relationships. We gain so much out of what we have been giving to Israel and what we do to Israel. And this is something that's very difficult for people to understand who don't recognize what is actually happening. I talked to somebody recently who told me, you know what? I'm just sick and tired of giving my kids money to Israel. And I had to ask them this question. I said, okay, let's just talk about this for just 1 second. How much money do you think that every single U.S. citizen pays out of their pocket per year for Israel? Let's just pretend. Let me ask you that question. And of course, every single time I ask a question like that, they tell me we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And sometimes even people will tell me it's thousands of dollars per person. And it's just money that we cannot afford. It's money being taken out of the mouth of my children. So let's talk about the math for just one moment. Based on the amount of money that we know we give Israel every single year, which the number is roughly $3.8 billion. That's the number, okay? Think about it like this. The U.S. population is roughly 335 million people. If you divide the annual aid by the population that I just gave you, that means we are spending $11.34 per person per year, okay? That is $11, folks, less than $1 per month. Think about that. 3 cents per day, okay? So to give you some perspective on what that means, think about it like this. Americans spend far more money per person on foreign aid to many other countries combined. Think about that. Americans spend dramatically more per person on domestic programs, interest on debt, entitlement, all that kind of stuff. Think about it, guys, like stuff that is just wasted money. We spend more money per person on that go directly to programs that give McDonald's to illegal aliens. I'm just trying to give you some perspective here. Money, by the way, does not go directly to Israel as cash. That's another thing that people need to understand. So much of it is spent back in the United States through defense systems. I can't, think that through, guys. Literally, manufacturing, joint military programs. Okay? Think about how significant that is. Now, somebody might say, well, that doesn't amount. Let's throw that number out. Okay? Let's talk about the real number. How about per every taxpayer? Okay, let's do that. There's about 160 million federal income taxpayers in the United States of America. 160 million. That's the number. Okay? This, by the way, includes individuals who actually pay federal income tax, not just residents. We're talking about individuals as a whole, even expatriates. Okay? That means if you take $3.8 billion, you divide it by $160 million, or 160 million people, that's $23.75 per taxpayer per year. Okay? $24 per taxpayer per year, folks. Think about that for a second. Roughly $2 per month. 6 to 7 cents a day. Less than a single fast food meal per year. Less than one streaming subscription for a month per year. Okay, folks, more people spend that money on coffee in 2 days. Now, some of you might say, well, that's beside the point. I don't want to spend any money. Okay, fair enough. But what if I told you that spending that money actually becomes beneficial because it's a small nominal fee to pay for you to be the partaker of the type of security that you continue to be a beneficiary of? Okay? We would not have the many things that we get to have right now as security beneficiaries if we did not have Israel. Look, my point is this. I'm not even making the biblical argument. I'm making the secular argument. I'm making the argument that just comes from just outright business sense. Just looking at the numbers and recognizing what's going on. The problem is, most people don't see it. Most people don't even want to recognize it. They don't want to even acknowledge it. And the reality of it is, if I could go to anybody right now and I could say, your children would be double, literally double as safe as they are right now if you spent $1,000 a year. Would you do it? Yes, you would. You would. You would absolutely do it. Yet they can be at the same level of safe and secure by a simple investment that we make in Israel. It's really an investment in the United States of America. How about we put all that aside for just 1 second and say that God tells us that he will bless those that bless Israel and curse those that curse Israel? What if you take that? Well, that's only in the book of Genesis in chapter 12. No, it's not. It's all over the book of Genesis. Reiterated all throughout the Old Testament, and yes, in the New Testament. It cannot be ignored. My point is this. My point is we need to pay attention to the very truth that involves God's word that tells us we become direct beneficiaries.
Okay, guys, I'm out. God bless.
To when that action
See you tomorrow, which is Christmas Eve, guys.
you
Yeehaw.
have to pay attention to. If you are an America First person, then that means you support Israel. If you're an America only person, it means you